Oh, I am both a social and a fiscal conservative. And I think Carol's question was, would Bill Brady eliminate a woman's right to choose? It was a good question because we failed to address that issue in the last campaign. Pat Quinn labeled me as someone who would go above and beyond Roe versus Wade in the United States Constitution. I can't do that. She addressed the issue. Yes, I'm pro-life. I'm proud to be pro-life, but I'm not going to violate the U.S. Constitution.
You know, Bill, can I ask one more thing on that? There are a number of other Republican governors elected in the last cycle who were pro-life but tried to be, you know, not scary on the issue to people who'd be scared by that. They got into office, and all of a sudden it's vaginal probes and everything else. Are you going to be for vaginal probes and some of these other things?
My position is clear. I am for protecting innocent human life within the confines of Roe versus Wade on hypotheticals like that. But I will tell you one thing I am for. I am for enhancing and protecting women's health care opportunities throughout the state.
Bill, did you get the answer you wanted from Rauner on the issue of Stuart Levine? That's when you two had a bit of an exchange.
Well, it's kind of like, I think by reporters, Bruce Rauner's been asked 8 different times if he ever talked to Arnie Duncan. And he's had 8 different stories. The last one was his wife talked to Arnie Duncan. When it came down to Stuart Levine and $300,000, he finally admitted that yes, resources from his companies paid Stuart Levine, and he voted to double his firms. And the point here was not so much that incident, but he loves to beat up on unions around this state, private and public sector unions, and say they've had a conflict of interest. It seems to me a bit hypocritical when you yourself seem to have a conflict of interest, or at least Stuart Levine did.
But he claims, as you know, Rauner claims he knew nothing about it. He didn't know about Levine, didn't know about those payments. That's his claim. Unless you can persuade people he did, it doesn't do you much good.
I don't think we have to persuade people. They know.
Jill, you know, on probably the most important vote, perhaps, of Senator Dillard's career, the pension reform bill. He had been supporting it all along the way up to the final vote when it passed. You supported it. You were on the 10, I think it was 10 legislators on the conference committee, and you supported it. And yet he said he didn't have enough time to review it to decide if he should vote for it. And he was afraid. He actually said specifically that, you know, there could be some pension employees, state employees, who could be hurt, and he didn't have enough time to decide that. You decided it was good for the state of Illinois. Do you think maybe you should be running for governor and he should be running for lieutenant governor?
You know, I think it's certainly important that we have a lieutenant governor that has the experience to step into the shoes of governor if you know, you're a heartbeat away. So I think that's important. But, you know, being one of the 10-member conference committee member, we were given the task of crafting together a pension bill. And given that it had the highest unfunded liability in the nation, there is not a perfect solution. Certainly, Senator Dillard and I are very committed to making the pension system solvent and sustainable for the long term so that they're there for the people that rely on them and that we give stability to our state budget so that those pension payments can be made. So the goal is the same. The means to get there we may have differed on. The bill was over 300 pages. I did not have any control over the process of which it was brought. I mean, that's certainly with the Senate President and Speaker Madigan at determining. And there were a lot of people that were very disgruntled about the process of being given, as you say, one of the most major pieces of legislation in Illinois' history. And you're given, what, you know, a few short hours to review it and to put it out for vetting among the public and getting feedback. So, you know, it was an unusual circumstance that led us to different means to obtaining the solvency and the sustainability of the pensions. But, you know, that's how I see it as
one short follow-up. Do you think it's too cynical of his opponent, Bruce Rauner, to suggest maybe Kirk Dillard was thinking down the road he might want the endorsement and financial support of some of the public sector unions like the Illinois Education Association, like the Illinois Federation of Teachers, and that was the real motivation, that he really needed that money, he needed that support? What is it too cynical of Bruce Rauner to suggest that?
Absolutely it's too cynical. You can look at Senator Dillard's exemplary voting record, high ethics, Yes, I totally believe.
Would it have been
Bruce
wrong if he did that for that reason? If Senator Dillard, in fact, voted against that bill so he could get the endorsement of the teachers' unions? In your view, would it have been wrong on Senator Dillard to do that?
Well, yes, I think it would have been wrong, but that is totally not what went into that thought process.
Okay.
We discussed it.
On the issue of school vouchers and school choice, you know, Senator Dillard has said he supported that, but he doesn't seem to be out there speaking so strongly about it. Are you speaking strongly about school vouchers and school choice? Because, as you know, the teachers' unions adamantly oppose that. So are you speaking strongly about it? And do you think Dillard's still on the record in support of school vouchers, school choice?
You know, I can't speak for him. That issue has not come up a lot in this discussion lately. But I do know we did have an opportunity to vote on a bill. I did not support the vouchers.
You mean the Senator Meeks bill?
Yes, that was several years back.
And why didn't you support that?
You know, I looked at the Illinois Constitution, and I think that there's some real drawbacks on whether or not it could be allowed. And I very much value freedom of religion, and I want our parochial schools to be unfettered by government control. And I had concerns that if...
Well, they wouldn't have to take the money. It would just be a possibility for them to accept
Right,
it.
and I'm open to that now because I want very much for public education for every child in Illinois to be quality. And I'm not sure that's the case. And so I would be open to whatever is going to get us a better education.
Including school vouchers, school choice?
If that, you know, it depends on how it's crafted, the bill. Every bill does. So we'd take a look at it.
Jump in. We just went on jobs because it is as important as the senator says. But as today, you may know, the Illinois unemployment rate, it was announced, decreased to 8.7%. That's still more than 2 points above the national average. Your running mate, Mr. Dillard, has said that he favors he's got a plan, Destination Illinois. But can you tell us specifically, so that voters can understand very simply if they're listening to this, what are the one or two most important things that you and Senator Dillard would do if you're elected to increase the job growth, the job opportunities in Illinois, and sharply diminish, make Illinois at least competitive with the rest of the state, decrease that 2-point disadvantage on
And those are the
unemployment?
issues that I've worked on in the legislature every day since I've been.
Crystallize it to the one or two important
Well,
things.
you know, certainly I've worked on tort reform, looking at venue, but I can tell you right now, the agencies of the state are not properly managed. That's why, you know, Senator Dillard has said he wants me to serve as the repealer. The bureaucracy and the red tape are hindering business growth and development. And that's one of the major things right there. You get the agencies working again by the proper directors being put in place. You will see major change in Illinois job opportunities, and certainly causation being approached in the workman's compensation. We're 3 times higher in Illinois with that cost for an employer than we are in Iowa, and that's, you know, we've got to be competitive with our neighboring states.
You know, Bruce Rauner is an insider. He is an ultimate insider and literally the king of pay-to-play politics that I've ever seen in Illinois. Bruce Rauner is the worst kind of insider. He's the one that has done the buying of Stuart Levine for $1 million. Read the Philadelphia Inquirer. He says he gave $300,000 to Ed Rendell, the Democrat governor of Pennsylvania, while he was the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, to, quote, buy influence. That's Rauner's word, not mine, according to the Philadelphia Inquirer. And then he clouts his kid who was rejected into the Walter Payton High School, and then he gives Arnie Duncan and this foundation that Arnie wants $250,000. Bruce Rauner is the king of all pay-to-play politics in the history of Illinois, and he is the ultimate insider, the guy doing the buying, and that's the worst kind of influence you can have.
Kirk, it looks like that tomorrow night is one of the last 2 times to debate Bruce Rauner. So you've just said this about Levine. You know, the unions are piling on his Medicare companies. Tomorrow night, do you and Bill Brady have to really hammer those issues home? The Levine issue, the Medicare companies. I mean, you almost have to mention it 5 times tomorrow night, don't you?
You know, we've been talking about it for a long time. And, you know, there are ads up. It's up to you all in the media, and it's up to the public to educate themselves and not buy into this wolf in sheep's clothing who's a member, described as a member of Rahm Emanuel's inner circle by the Chicago media. This is a Republican primary. And the guy who made Rahm Emanuel rich, who vacations with him, should not be the Republican nominee, especially after the long history of pay-to-play activity.
And supposing that Bruce wins the primary, would you mind if on March 19th, we blabbed all this Kirk Dillard anti-Bruce stuff out on the radio?
The truth is the truth, whether it's spoken by me or anyone else.
Will you line up and support Bruce Rauner if he does win the primary?
I don't think Bruce Rauner is going to win the primary.
But if he does, would you support him?
If he answers questions, Crane Chicago Businesses said he needs to answer the Stuart Levine questions. He paid Stuart Levine $1 million. That's more than the CEO of that company got paid. A man like Bruce Rauner, who goes and asks for $50 million from the board that Levine controls, you don't think knows who's on that board? I mean, Bruce is a lot of things, but stupid is not one of them. And I'll guarantee you he knew who Stu Levine was. And then someone told me yesterday who knew Levine, and I didn't know Levine, but if you dealt with Stu Levine, he would pester you day in and day out. I'll guarantee you Bruce Rauner knew about Stu Levine.
So you're saying he lied right to your face?
I don't know. You all have to ask him those questions. Anything else? Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So Illinois is at least 2 points above, in a bad way, higher unemployment. Can you be very specific in telling us the one or two things you would do if in fact you were the governor? Okay? And something had happened to Mr. Brady, you were the governor. Once that happened, what would you do to dramatically improve the job situation in Illinois? Would you follow your running mate and try to eliminate the income tax completely? What would you do?
I think that I believe in what the platform that we've laid out. We've laid it out together. I believe that his vote and support of the pension reform bill that came up set in motion the ability to sunset the temporary income tax. And then I do believe we should set ourselves on a path to eliminate the personal income tax. I believe personal income tax is oppressive in its very nature. More importantly, you look at all the advantages that Illinois has. We have a thriving agricultural sector. We produce more energy than any other state. We have cutting-edge universities and hospitals. We have every advantage, but most importantly, we have logistics. We have where planes, trains, and automobiles connect. Logistics matter to business. That's why businesses want to be here. You cut the taxes and cut the regulation, you will have businesses beating a path back to our door.
Some independent expenditure groups, apparently backed by public sector unions, have suggested that Bruce Rauner and his companies that his company invested in were responsible for the deaths of people in nursing homes that his company had bought. Would you support those, the gist of those ads? Do you think that Mr. Rauner is personally responsible for the deaths of some people in the nursing homes that his company had bought at one time?
I think there are questions that have to be answered. And I think
Which ones? Give us the questions that aren't answered.
Well, the questions that you're seeing about, over and over again, there have been questions about different companies that were involved with his larger company. And over again, people went to prison or there were questionable practices. And so those questions...
Over and over, people went to prison?
There were a couple of instances where...
People in his companies went to prison?
Where people that were part of the company, the people that the organization in Detroit, is it Lasco? I'm sorry if I don't remember the exact name of the company. It
was a company owned by Mr. Rauner, you're saying, and Mr. Rauner...
It was an affiliate company with Mr. Rauner. My point is that he was a chairman of that company, and he
chairman
should know...
of which company?
GTCR.
Okay.
And so he should, the question is, did he know, the question of Stuart Levine is another one. Did he know what was going on or did he not know what was going on?
You mean, did he know that Stu Levine was receiving money from one of the companies that was owned by one of the many companies that GTCR had invested in?
Receiving a lot of money. And
how much was he receiving?
You know how much he was receiving, $25,000 a month.
Okay.
And so the question is, he has said that he is going to be a hands-on governor. And he's a smart man. He's the smartest man in the room, typically. He either knows what went on or he doesn't know what went on. And really, for the governors, this is the executive seat. And the questions are fair because this is the primary, we're trying to identify.
Well, what is it you
which-
want Mr. Rauner to answer? Because he has been asked questions a night or two ago. He answered some. So what question should he be asked that he hasn't answered? Because, Brady had a chance to ask him. Dillard had a chance.
I think that Brady has been asking him the
And
question.
what was the question that he asked that wasn't answered, Mr. Brady?
I think he has to identify exactly what his role was and how much he did know about these different things that were going on.
Okay, he said he didn't know. So you don't believe him? Is that it?
No, not necessarily. What I'm saying is his job in the executive seat, the CEO of the state, is going to be hands-on. He has got to be able to work together with others and to make sure that he holds everyone to a standard of ethics. That's incredibly important in Illinois right now. And to say I'm from the outside, so I have, I don't have, all these other guys are with a corrupt machine and so on, they're part of the problem, I don't think is fair. I don't think it's fair.
Are some of those concerns what made you shy away when he was, at least considering you were talking to you about running with him?
The primary reason that I did not, if you're going to run together with someone, you have to be whole in and believe that they are the best person for the job. I don't believe that he necessarily is qualified at this point in time to be the governor of the state of Illinois. With so much that needs to be done, he has zero legislative experience. I think that's incredibly important right now. You have to have a depth of understanding of the issues so that you can, the CEO of the state takes office, he doesn't have a vote. He lays out the vision, and then he has to work with everybody that's there. He can't fire anybody and hire new executives that will do what he wants them to do. So he's got to know how to have the skill set to know how to lay out the vision and work together with everyone to get it done.
So that was the main problem, that he lacks legislative experience in your decision not to run with him?
I didn't feel it was a good fit for a lot of different reasons, but that was what started it. I talked to him over and over again. We just don't line up, our views don't line up, my questions weren't answered, and I just didn't feel it was, you really give up your life to campaign and run for this office, and I would have to
Could
be.
somebody criticize you in the same way and say, if something were to happen to Bill Brady, you'd be governor? Do you have any legislative experience?
I do. Actually, I sat in the I held the executive office at the local level, and it's a
And you
microcosm.
think that's the same, being what was your position in Long Grove?
Village president.
Okay, and what's the population in Long Grove?
It's 8,000, but I'll tell you
So you
why
think
it's the same.
that's comparable to the legislative experience of running a state with 13 million people?
I believe that the skill set is the same. I believe when I sat down, that there were 6 trustees. 3 of those trustees voted for the other guy. I was able to build consensus in that it is a microcosm of the larger state, of the larger government. It's absolutely the same thing.
Senator Brady, your running mate, has said he wouldn't have the power to overturn Roe v. Wade if he were governor. But I think he's indicated he would like it if Roe v. Wade were overturned. He would like it if a woman's right to choose, as people use it with respect to abortion, was modified. His view is no exceptions except for the life of the mother. If there's rape or incest, that woman wouldn't be allowed to have an abortion. Certainly wouldn't be able to have an abortion on demand as she can now. Do you think that position, if Bill Brady were to win the nomination for the Republican, in the Republican primary, win the Republican nomination, Republican Party nomination, running against Pat Quinn, that would be all over again, all over the screen. Do you think that might offset the economic advantage you folks might have, that with suburban women, where Bill apparently didn't do well, even with you, he wouldn't do well, and your views are pretty much the same on abortion. So do you answer that first? Do you help Bill much with women, given your views on abortion? And 2, can the 2 of you win running against Pat Quinn and Paul Vallis, given your views on abortion?
I believe we absolutely can win. My personal views are the same as Bill Brady's, but right now the votes that are going to be considered by the General Assembly are about safety, really, and any mother would think that if a young woman's going to have an abortion, it should be an informed choice, and she should be guaranteed that she's safe. I don't think that anybody would be objecting to that.
Are women lacking that now?
Yes.
How, in what way? How are they unsafe when they choose to have an abortion?
The legislation that was just introduced, that Tanya Reeves legislation, a young woman bled to death 5 minutes on Michigan Avenue in a Planned Parenthood facility a year ago, July.
So would you try to shut down Planned Parenthood?
I would demand stronger safety regulations. I think that's fair.
From where? Who should be regulating that in the state?
Well, the state should be regulating
No, but
that.
where in the state?
I think that the legislation is pretty clear on that.
Is there a department that regulates abortions in the state of Illinois?
That I can't speak to right now.
Okay, thanks.
Bill, do you have to get Rauner to start focusing on the Stu Levine issue, on the Ed Rendell issue?
He's proven that he's going to gloss over all those issues. It doesn't even want to deal with the fact that there's an inappropriateness, whether it is actual or not. No one has accused him, nor we know that there was any illegal dealings. But when you give a governor $300,000, or when you pay Stuart Levine $250,000, $300,000 a year, and then you get votes or favors from their government, and it lines your pockets, it's a real serious question that he's yet to answer.
With the unions pulling those ads, those TV ads, how do you get it out? You don't have money. Dillard doesn't have money. Looks like Rauner wins it. He walks away.
Well, you've already predicted that, Jack. We don't think that happens. At the end of the day, as I've traveled around the state, we've seen people take down Bruce Rauner and Kirk Dillard signs. Kirk Dillard has been attacked around the state for selling out to the unions on pension reform, and now what else has he sold out to? Bruce Rauner is being attacked for his close allegiance to Rahm Emanuel. And it's okay to have him as a friend, but the governor of Illinois can't be in the pocket of the mayor of Chicago. Thank you.
Kirk Dillard says, if anything, you're smart. He says Stu Levine was pestering you. He says Stu Levine was out there receiving money from your companies. He says Stu Levine was out there getting you business. He says if you're as smart as you tell the people of Illinois you are, you had to know about this. What do you say to Kirk Dillard?
Baloney. I don't know Levine, never interacted with him. And this issue that somehow we as investors know every board member of every foundation or every pension fund we work with, we don't. We interact with the staffs. We don't interact with the boards. They are faceless folks sitting up behind a podium when we present. We don't know the folks on the boards, and I've never interacted with them.
What did you get from Ed? Kirk, with the unions pulling their ads, you have no way to reach the people to talk anymore about Stu Levine and your views about the Stu Levine-Bruce Rauner relationship. So no matter what, even if you're right, if you can't reach the people, you lose, right?
Well, this room is full of reporters tonight, so I think I'm reaching people tonight. And I don't know, Jeff, whether you've seen the last negative ad. The strategy is that I want to sell my unique ability, proven ability, to work with the Democrat legislature, not only to keep McCormick Place the #1 convention center in America, or make this state live within its means, but you know, the unions have their own strategy. I don't involve myself with them, but my pitch now is to get my story told. You know, and it was interesting when I saw the Tribune poll or headline on Sunday that said Dillard surging. That poll was taken before I went on television. And we have our own polling. I know where I'm at, and I like where I'm at, and we're going to win this thing. It's, you know, Mr. Rauner's support is like sunburn. It is very, very, very thin. And we know from my headquarters with more than 60,000 personal phone calls, when you talk to his supporters, it is very, very thin support. Nobody knows who Bruce Rauner is, but he's an ultimate insider. He's the worst kind of insider. He's the one that has done the buying in every stage of his personal, professional, and political career. And this state, having had the scandals that we've had in the governorship, should never let anybody that had Stuart Levine on a payroll for $1 million getting $50 million from a board that Levine sat on ever sniff the office of the governor.
Kirk, you heard Rauner say tonight, when you invest in 400 companies, you're going to have a few bad apples, like Michigan, like a few others. What's your response? I mean, you know, he's human, he's a smart guy. Invest in 400 companies, a few go bad. You think he's disqualified to be governor?
Well, I think when you have one company where people go to a federal penitentiary, that's too many. He has many, 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 many companies that have gone bad. And no one's gone to jail yet for the nursing home scandal in California. But when you run a series of nursing homes and don't have anyone with healthcare experience on your board of directors, and people have died there, That is a callous disregard for human life. And we saw tonight that Mr. Rauner doesn't have a very good grasp of the office of the governor. He thinks he can do executive orders. He clearly is unprepared and does not understand what the powers of the office of the governor are. But I don't know how many different scandals you have to have with people going to federal penitentiaries of businesses that you're involved in before you get the picture. And I don't want somebody that has a callous disregard for human life in charge of the Department of Children and Family Services or the state's Medicaid program. And the man tonight proved that he does not understand what the office of the governor is about.
Bruce Stoltz said on Tuesday that Jim Edgar's sitting on $500,000 in campaign money he could give to you so you could get your word out. Do you think Edgar's going to come through for Kirk Dillard?
Well, you'll see over the weekend that I will be campaigning with the former governor, but it's not Jim Edgar's job to float my campaign. And I think you all know that Governor Edgar is not someone that gave away his campaign contributions.
That having been said, Jay, we only have 5 days left. Everybody's saying that it's Bruce Rauner's to lose. You can't disagree with that, right?
Bruce Rauner appears to be in a good position to win this primary. A lot of things can happen with a couple of days left to go. What I think everybody was looking for in this final debate of the campaign was some kind of knockout punch, and I don't think there was one.
So that means, and there's no more debates, there's probably no more press conferences, there's no way that Brady or Dillard can get their word out unless, as I said, if Jim Edgar gives Dillard, $500,000, which he could do, unless something like that happens, it's over.
And you know that Bruce Rauner is going to be on television with commercials right up until the polls open. So, you do the math.
Well, that's what I mean. So it's a no-brainer. I'd expect Jay Levine from Channel 2, he's got, 30, 40 years of experience, would say, it's over. You can stick a fork in Dillard and Brady.
It's never over till it's over.
The fat lady hasn't sung?
I mean, how many people dismissed Harold Washington a couple of days before the election? Polls lie. Polls are misleading. I don't think you can I think if you're smart, you wait and you see what the people say as opposed to what the pollsters say.
So what would you do if you were Dillard to try to pull it out?
I try to reach every single voter that I could, and I try to get my message out. And his message clearly was the one, I've got the experience. He scored with the points about what the governor can do on his own, as opposed to what he has to cooperate with the legislature about. He scored on those points. Did he score enough? Will he be able to score enough in the last days of the campaign? It's going to be tough.
I mean, there it is. Jay Levine saying essentially that it's Rauner's to lose. He's saying something could happen. He wants to think about it. But as we sit here or stand here on March 13th, right after the WTTW debate where all 4 candidates for governor in the Republican primary showed up, Bruce Rauner, Senator Dillard, Senator Bill Brady, State Treasurer Dan Rutherford, and then they all showed up, surprisingly. People thought Rauner wouldn't, but they all showed up to the press conferences, and you saw them right here on Public Affairs. You saw Rauner, you saw Dillard, you saw Brady, and you saw Rutherford, okay? Well, I'm not sure. I guess Rutherford didn't make it here. He's given up. That campaign's over. But you did see Rauner, you did see Dillard, and you did see Brady, and you saw it all here on Public Affairs. Come back every week to Public Affairs. Keep checking us out on youtube.com/publicaffairstv. Take a look at our blog at chicagonow.com/publicaffairs. This is Jeff Berkowitz for Public Affairs saying good night and good politics and good policy. This is Jeff Berkowitz with Public Affairs saying, with 5 days left until the Republican primary for governor takes place on March 18th, it looks like, as we've said before, it's Rauner's to lose, unless there's an angel that steps forward that gives $500,000 or more to somebody like Dillard or Brady so they can get the word out. It's Rauner's. You can stick a fork in Brady, you can stick a fork in Dillard, you can stick a fork in Rutherford. They're done. Rauner's the next Republican nominee for governor, and some would say he's the next governor of the state of Illinois. This is Jeff Berkowitz for Public Affairs, coming to you from the WTTW studio on March 13th, the year 2014.